Welcome to the Noon Report. We begin with breaking news. A high-ranking official at Minot Air Force Base is out of a job following a pair of incidents involving lost or misplaced weaponry. Colonel Colin Connor, the commander of the 91st Missile Wing, has relieved Security Forces Commander Colonel Jason Beers of his duties. Beers was responsible for training his team to secure the 150 Minuteman III missiles and launch facilities. Beers' dismissal comes after two mishaps involving weapons. Earlier this month, the Air Force said a can of grenades fell off a truck near Parshall. Then last week, the base reported a missing M240 machine gun during a routine check. The Air Force Global Strike Command ordered an inventory check across all 8 bases following the missing gun. Neither has been recovered. A new proposed refinery near Theodore Roosevelt National Park has environmentalists concerned. Today, they showed up for day 2 of the Williston Basin Petroleum Conference to protest. Maddie Gelseth spoke to them. She joins us now with more. Maddie?
A few protesters were holding signs to let Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke know that a few North Dakotans are against the refinery being built next to the national park. Ryan Zinke says the park is a good one, but our advantage is energy. He also says a good debate is healthy, but rude people aren't.
Our troops overseas and fight for energy when we have it here is immoral, in my judgment. So environmentally, economically, and morally, it is the proper policy of this country to never be.
At 6, I'll tell you what Meridian Energy Group, the builders of the refinery, have to say with them building so close to the national park. Reporting live from the Energy Center. For NBC North Dakota News, I'm Maddie Gelseth.
Let's send it over now to Henry for our first check on weather.
Hey, we got some thunderstorms. Our first warning, Sky Tracker, Doppler radar.
All right, thanks, Henry. Today, a man charged in a Minot murder is taking the stand in his own defense. 28-year-old Bradley Morales faces a murder charge in the fatal stabbing of a woman last year. Medical professionals testified yesterday, saying the victim suffered significant loss of blood and was later pronounced brain dead at the hospital. The lead investigator in the case also took to the stand this morning for the state. We will have coverage of today's events at the trial on the Evening Report. In transportation news, the school year hasn't even ended, and Harlow's is already looking for school bus drivers. Harlow's Transportation Services says they currently have 48 routes they serve in Bismarck, but starting in July, they will begin their contract with Mandan Public Schools, adding more routes, meaning more drivers will be needed.
That's going to add an additional 23 routes, which realistically with the routes plus the activities will probably add around 30 drivers total to the total number of drivers that we have.
He says they expect to lose more than 6 drivers from Bismarck after the school year. But he says it's part of the process because people get other jobs. Harlow is currently looking for more than 24 bus drivers to fill those spots. A federal transportation board is recommending that all states equip new school buses with seat belts. The board started the discussion about a recommendation after a 2016 deadly school bus crash in Tennessee and Baltimore. Now, in the wake of the school bus crash in New Jersey last week, where a student and teacher were killed, the board is taking a harder stance on the issue of seatbelts. The board is also recommending that states who already require seatbelts on school buses upgrade from lap belts to shoulder belts. The unofficial start to summer is going to cost you, especially if your plans include travel. The American Automobile Association says prices at the pump will be at their highest levels for Memorial Day weekend since 2014. The national average of a gallon of gas sits at $2.93. That's about 50 cents up from the last 3 years. And prices aren't expected to fall this summer months. AAA predicts most states will eclipse the $3 mark in the coming weeks. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is giving an $846,000 grant along with $1 million loan to the United Tribes Technical College. The fund will be invested in stormwater systems on campus. Congo's health ministry is announcing 6 new confirmed Ebola cases and 2 new suspected cases Tuesday. Local officials are racing to administer vaccinations for the deadly virus. Dozens of health workers in the Northwest provincial capital have already received those vaccinations. Frontline workers are especially at risk for contracting the virus, which spreads in contact with bodily fluids of infected people, including the dead. The virus can be fatal in up to 90% of cases, depending on the strain. The latest search by a private U.S. company for the missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 is coming to an end. Houston-based Ocean Infinity picked up the search for the missing plane in January after the official search by Australia, Malaysia, and China was called off last year. Malaysia agreed to pay the company up to $70 million if they found the plane during the 90-day search of the southern Indian Ocean. The doomed flight disappeared while flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing in March 2014 with 239 people on board. There are growing calls today for the president of the University of Southern California to step down as more women come forward accusing a longtime campus doctor of sexual misconduct. And a warning, some of these accusations of the young women are graphic.
He made sexual comments about me and said that I was pretty.
Daniela Mohazab says in 2016, when she was a 19-year-old student at USC, Dr. George Tyndall told her to undress for a gynecological exam with no one else present.
He felt around by moving his fingers around inside for a few minutes. He said that this was part of an STD test.
Daniela says she felt violated but was new to USC and thought she could trust the doctor. She's one of 7 women who are now suing the university and the doctor in 4 separate lawsuits, alleging they were sexually abused, harassed, and molested by Tyndall, who was a full-time gynecologist at the school's student health center for 30 years. Now, more than 2,500 students have signed an online petition calling for the removal of USC President C.L. Max Nikias.
We felt that we couldn't keep silent anymore.
And 200 USC professors, including tenured and high-profile faculty, signed a letter saying President Nikias has lost the moral authority to lead the university.
President Nikias himself has claimed, yes, we made a mistake. It's no longer just a mistake, it's a pattern.
Amazon is putting its facial recognition software on the market, which allows practically instant identification of anyone who walks into a space with surveillance. Now, dozens of groups are speaking out, saying this could spell out a serious violation of civil liberties.
It's called Amazon Recognition Video, which does real-time and batch video analytics.
Back in 2016, Amazon launched Recognition, a new online service the company says can identify faces, objects, and track people. It offers the service to anyone at low costs through its giant cloud division. Now the decision to market the face recognition tool to police is alarming people like Shankar Narayan with the ACLU of Washington. He says it's a serious privacy concern to vulnerable communities.
Communities of color, immigrant communities that are subject to enforcement under this administration are now additionally concerned because governments are being handed this very powerful surveillance infrastructure. And the concern is that they can use it in ways that aren't in line with civil liberties.
It's unclear how many law enforcement agencies have purchased Recognition, but on Amazon's list of customers, it lists the Washington County Sheriff's Office in Oregon as one of them. An analyst from that department says we were able to index more than 300,000 photo records within 1 to 2 days, and the identification time of suspects went from 2 to 3 days down to minutes. More than 40 organizations signed a letter to Jeff Bezos urging Amazon to take Recognition off the table for governments, saying it's a threat to American communities and freedom. In Seattle, Tadavika Prikyan.
A sinkhole has opened up outside the White House, and reporters say it's getting bigger by the hour. The hole is covered up and surrounded by orange cones. It sits just outside the entrance of the White House press room. The National Park Service says the sunken turf was first spotted on Sunday. Sinkholes are common in D.C. after heavy rain. The Park Service says it's monitoring the hole and evaluating how to respond. Speaking of sinkholes, 4 huge ones are carved out after heavy downpours in Marion County, Florida. Officials say they first noticed them earlier this week. Video from Marion County Sheriff's Office shows 3 of the sinkholes near homes in the village. No residents have been evacuated. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Back in February, a similar situation did force evacuations in the same neighborhood. Officials say an underground lake is to blame. And it's not just stateside. A huge sinkhole opens up at a construction site in eastern China over the weekend. Take a look at that. Chinese state media reported that the incident happened early Saturday morning and that the sinkhole swallowed 3 cars. There were no reports of casualties. State media said that construction sites shouldered heavy weekend rains, which caused the unstable road to collapse. Authorities issued a stop work order at the site and requested safety measures be improved. The Kilauea volcano erupting on the Big Island of Hawaii is still bubbling out hot molten lava through more than 20 splits in the earth. Now that lava is inching dangerously close to shutting down a critical power plant. NBC's Miguel Almaguer has the latest of this unfolding disaster.
The devastating lava flow pouring unbridled from the earth, inching ever closer to a sprawling power plant on the Big Island. Most of the explosive material has been removed from the plant, but one underground well still remains vulnerable.
If lava hits the geothermal plant, it means we lose 20% of our power for the island.
Residents here facing danger on multiple fronts after another explosion at Kilauea's crater, sending dangerous ash and volcanic smog into the air. And the chemical reaction that happens when magma pours into the ocean, known as lays, creating toxic clouds that can drift 15 miles. The volcano has destroyed more than 40 structures so far. This home still standing after being hit by a lava bomb that struck Daryl Clinton while he was standing on the balcony.
It was a direct line drive as if it came out of a rifle barrel.
Clinton says his friend and neighbor may have saved his life. This close-knit community sticking together in the face of unrelenting fire and fury.
With more than 20 massive fissures, including the one behind me, still erupting, this one sending lava catapulting into the air at about 100 feet. Geologists say it's unclear when any of this seismic and volcanic activity will slow down. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Pahoa, Hawaii.